Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching first part of What If Naruto Became Curse of Hatred. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
The Valley of No Return. An old battleground where two gods of shinobi fought, and a place where different ideas clashed. The valley was like a big scar on the land. It was the site of a huge battle that shook the ninja world and beyond. As kids, Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage, were rivals and old friends. They got into a fight to the death to see who would be the Hokage and lead the village of their dreams. With the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan's power and the Kyuubi no Kitsune as a pet, Madara has a good chance of winning. If he were fighting a normal person, he was the strongest person in the world and was called the God of Shinobi. The Hokage was known for having a strong Keki Genkai called Wood Release. By using both Water Release and Earth Release at the same time, the Senju leader could turn empty land into forests and jungles. The Wood Release also let him hold and control Biju, which you can also call tailed beasts or chakra monsters. A person with great vision used the Kyuubi no Kitsune, which was one of the Nun Biju and the strongest of them, as a tool. That's right, the Kyuubi hated people more than anything else. The Sharingan, that damn copy wheel eye, was their worst enemy. These two things together made something that the Kyuubi hated with all its heart. With its 9 huge tails, the giant fox could crush mountains and make tsunamis. With its breath, it could make hurricanes or infernos. It would never let itself be tamed, especially by Uchiha. It would not turn into one of its kind. Locked up. In spite of that, it did what it was supposed to do and was now helpless until someone freed it. There was another repeat of history. Because they had different ideas, the children and grandchildren of the Rakudo Sennin, Sage of Six Paths, were killing each other again. The older son's belief that power would bring peace turned into the curse of hatred, which most, if not all, Uchiha would carry with them. The younger son's belief that love was the only way to find peace turned into the will of fire. A goal that everyone in the village of Hidden Leaf would learn and agree with. The two powerhouses attacked each other with abilities that no one thought they had. The valley was made by cutting through mountains, splitting the land, and generally wrecking it. But even though he had the power of the Kyuubi and the strength of the Sharingan at his command. Hello, Madara. We lost the battle. Stabbed in the back by a person who used to be his friend. Trapped by his family. His family thought that the person who stole his brother's eyes was a dangerous person who would start a war again. Had lost everything when the cold metal of a sword cut him. 2 statues were put up to remember the fight that happened all those years ago. The seal of conflict is held by one of Hashirama and the other of Madara. This is where Hashirama Senju beat the Kyuubi. And the spot where Madara died. That's what everyone thought. Right now. Nothing could be heard in the valley. The only sound was the loud chirping of birds coming from inside the valley. Sasuke Uchiha, the last loyal Uchiha of Konohagakure, had left his village to get power from the Sanin's Orochimaru. He joined the dangerous snake to get stronger so that he could kill his older brother Itachi and get back at his clan for being killed by that brother. He was well aware that even with the cursed seal of heaven, he would never be able to beat Itachi at this point in time. He wanted more and more power because of this. Another reason Sasuke left was that his teammate Naruto Uzumaki was getting stronger faster than him. Being weak compared to other fighters, especially in his last few months of academy, was something Sasuke didn't like. Hideyoshi Naruto was a knucklehead blonde ninja who was hyperactive and unpredictable. He wore a hideous orange jumpsuit that screamed, "Kill me," and no one knew how he avoided the Chunin and Anbu of the village. Naruto is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. The Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze, sealed a huge fox the size of the Hokage mountain into him when he was a baby. The blonde had been picked on his whole life. He had to deal with insults and threats of violence, or people would just ignore him. Every once in a while, the villagers would even beat him. So he made a mental mask to hide his hurt and anger, and that mask became his personality. Naruto wasn't very good at shinobi to begin with, and the teachers at the academy would cheat on his tests and stop him from learning. Only Iruka was willing to teach him, and she was also one of the few people who knew Naruto existed and saw him as Naruto, not the fox. But now he was in the hands of a friend who was like his brother. When Sasuke left the village, Tsunade, the Godem Hokage, told Shikamaru Nara, who had just been promoted, to put together a retrieval team to bring Sasuke back. Even though she would rather lock up the spoiled brat or beat him badly. Shikamaru brought a group of very skilled genin with him. Kiba Inuzuka is a strong fighter and a great tracker. Shoji Akamichi is a well-rounded ninja who isn't very smart. Neji Hyuga is the star of the Hyuga clan, and his Byakugan would be very useful. And finally, Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, is our favorite blonde ninja. They kept going after Sasuke through the Land of Fire, where each squad member gave their life to fight the Sound 4 members. But when Kimimaro Kagaya showed up, things got more complicated than expected. Naruto wasn't a threat to Orochimaru's subordinate, and fighting him was a waste of time because he needed to get to Sasuke. But when Rock Lee showed up at the right time, he was able to go after Sasuke without anyone getting in the way. We're now in the present moment and in this place. With the power of the curse seal behind him, Sasuke holds Naruto up in his right hand. In his left hand, he held a Chidori, which is the signature move of Kakashi Hatake of the Sharingan. Naruto was completely taken over by the user of Sharingan. The Uchiha were very fast and strong because of the curse seal, and he could barely fight back. Naruto felt a lot of different emotions, but the ones that stood out the most were sadness and anger. Naruto asked, Sasuke. Why? As he felt his throat being smashed. The reason is simple. Naruto. It's because that pathetic village could offer me no more power to help me kill Itachi. Said the Uchiha. But right now I can get even more power. Itachi had told Saki about the Mangekyo Sharingan and how he needed to kill his best friend. This made Saki have flashbacks. By taking your life in exchange for the Mangekyo. With those words, Sasuke rammed his Chidori into the ground. Right through Naruto's heart. And the blonde's own thoughts took his mind off of the hand going through his chest. Hey Sasuke, I believed you were my brother. I was glad there was someone else out there like me. I wished I were like you. Brave and sure of themselves. Everyone was looking at you. Giving you praise. Those eyes should have looked at me too. At first, we might have hated each other, but I loved it. As much as I loved competing against you. And I wanted to be recognized by you one day. I think of Sasuke as I close my eyes. Sasuke took his hand off of Naruto's chest, but he didn't seem to feel anything. He then threw Naruto into the water and went to the Land of Sound. Sasuke took one last look at the valley and thought, goodbye, Naruto. The Uchiha's tears could now be seen and were falling freely from his eyes. He wasn't aware that his Sharingan had changed into the Mangekyo. His Mangekyo was made up of 3 ellipses that came together at the pupil to look like an atom model. Uchiha were the only ones who could kill someone they cared about and then feel bad about it. It was lying in its cage, which had the kanji for seal in the middle. It seemed like darkness was getting into every part of Naruto's mind. The Kyuubi could feel its own life slipping away second by second. The wound is too great for me to heal with my chakra. So this is how it ends. Stupid brat. He got me killed. And now I'm going to die within your spawn Kushina. Curse you. Yondaime Hokage. For giving me this fate. I hope that pitiful village of yours was worth the price of your son. Shodem Hokage. Your wretched will of fire has been extinguished. Spat the Kyuubi to no one in particular. As it died, it closed its eyes and sent its chakra out into the world in a quiet way. Naruto was floating above the river when he felt a huge hole in his chest. His thoughts were on his teammate with the pink hair. Okay, Sakura, I'm sorry. I couldn't get him back. I only meant to make you happy. And I didn't get to tell you how I felt, were Naruto Uzumaki's last words before the Shinigami killed him. No one knew there was a third person nearby. It looked at the whole show. This person was wearing a black cloak with red clouds on it. The cloak covered their head and torso like a Venus flytrap. It had yellow eyes and short green hair. One half of its body was white all the way through, and the other half was black and had only one round eye on it. That was quite the fight. Shut up, that was the most one-sided fight I've ever seen. If only he called on the Kyuubi's chakra, he would have won. Compared to the power of Biju, Orochimaru's cursed seal doesn't hold a candle to it. Said the plant. What humans do. However, this could give us a chance that we can't miss, the black half said. The white half asked, "What do you mean?" Although the Kyuubi's chakra has dispersed toward the corners of the world, its Jinchuriki's body is still mostly intact, said the black part. The white half asked, "Can you still explain? I thought you were smarter than this." It doesn't matter. Jinchuriki are known to have massive supplies of chakra because their coils have to harden in order for their bodies to cope with the stress of the Biju's chakra, said the black part. So this boy has large reserves of chakra. The black half looked at the other half and seemed to sigh. Didn't it just say that? Yes. The average chakra reserves for a Chunin-level Jinchuriki are greater than that of a cage, the black thing said. But there's more, the black half said. That Jinchuriki was one of the last members of the Uzumaki clan. The white half asked, "Who were the Uzumaki clan again?" "They were a very strong shinobi clan that used sealing jutsu and fuinjutsu," said the black half. Fuinjutsu is a very strong ninja art, the white half said. The Uzumaki also had great stamina and life force coupled with their extremely powerful and large chakra reserves. A Chunin-level Uzumaki had the chakra reserves of a cage and so on and so forth. I see, then if this kid lived well into his adult years he would have Biju-level chakra reserves, said the plant idea. But there's more, the black half said, which caught the white half's attention. The Uzumaki were also an offshoot clan of the Senju, who broke away from the clan when they tired from the fighting with the Uchiha. They later fled to an island which they dubbed the Land of Whirlpools and created powerful seals and jutsu. However, they also had close ties with the Senju. This friendship was strengthened even further when Mito Uzumaki married Hashirama Senju. So this boy is a descendant of the younger son of the Rakudo Sennin. They told us. I see now. If we were to bring the boy to him, he can get what we want and we can finally finish what he started. He could combine the sage's body and the sage's eyes, said the white part. Exactly. When the white half knew the answer, it asked, "So shall we do it?" Yes. The plant man-thing went down to the valley and used its chakra to walk across the water to where Naruto's body was still floating on the surface. It went to the bank of the river, where it blended into the ground and vanished with Naruto's body. Kakashi Hatake, a highly regarded student of the Yondaime Hokage, was running with the wind behind him, and he felt desperate. His personal collar, a pug dog named Pakun, was with him. It's not far away, and their scent is getting stronger. Pakun yelled. Kakashi said with fear in his voice, "Good Pakun. I just hope we make it." Then they could see the valley of the end. But it began to rain, which made things more difficult for Kakashi. Pakun yelled, "Double time Kakashi. We're losing Sasuke's scent. They would not be able to make it at their current speed." Kakashi and Pakun jumped out from behind the trees and looked down at the valley. They went down into the basin at the base of the two legendary shinobi. "I'm sorry Kakashi, I've lost his scent. The rain will wash away all traces of his scent," Pakun said with sadness. But Kakashi didn't seem to hear him. The man with silver hair was looking all over the valley for signs of someone else. Kakashi asked out loud, "Where is Naruto?" "From what I can gather with my nose, Naruto's scent stops here. Even with the rain I would still be able to get a general direction, but it's as I said." Shared with Pakun. "I think Naruto ended up in the river, where no one would be able to smell him." "Oh. Okay Pakun, take the left side of the bank, and I'll take the right. Bark when you see any sign of Naruto," Kakashi told them. He didn't want to lose another student. The shinobi and his dog summon searched the riverbanks for hours, but they didn't find anything that would prove whether Naruto was alive or dead. After 6 hours of searching, they decided to go back to Konoha and see if there was any news that Naruto had survived. At least, that's what Kakashi hoped would happen. As Sasuke, Kabuto, and Orochimaru walked through their underground lair, they saw many people who had just traded bodies. Men, women, and children were locked up and moaning and crying out in pain and sorrow. Sasuke didn't seem to mind all the torture he saw. His own pain was much worse than theirs. "I am very pleased that you arrived at my base mostly unscathed, Sasuke. Kun," Orochimaru said in his beautiful but foul voice. "Just give me the power I want." Soon, Sasuke yelled. What Kabuto saw wasn't good. "Should I remind you that you are speaking to Orochimaru Sama and that you should show proper respect?" He snapped as he grabbed Sasuke's shoulder. But he jumped when he felt how strong the Uchiha's chakra was. Kabuto thought, such strong chakra, as he shook from the touch. Yes, he's the one who will be my next ship. The next 3 years in the future are going to be very interesting, Orochimaru thought happily as he licked his lips. How right he was. Just got back to Konoha and saw Sakura at the gate, where she was the last time they met. She asked where Sasuke and Naruto were, and he said, I don't know. Kakashi also noticed that the rain in the valley seemed to follow him back to the village. While he walked to the Hokage Tower, people were running around looking for shelter in the hopes of getting out of the rain. Kakashi was cold and soaked to the core, and his silver hair defied gravity by being dark and cloudy. You couldn't see his face, but you could tell he wasn't feeling well on the inside. He almost knocked on the tower's door but stopped himself because he didn't know how to tell Tsunade that Naruto had gone missing. He knew she didn't care about Sasuke, but she loved the blonde knuckle. Head like a sun. How would she react? He got up the courage to knock on her door twice and heard it come in from the other side. When he walked in, he saw Tsunade working behind her desk with a bottle of sake on her right side. But something wasn't right. She had bags under her amber eyes, as if stress had really gotten to her, and there were wrinkles all over her face, making it look like she had lost her special henge a little. Kakashi, do you have anything to report? Why do you ask in such a strong voice? She snapped Kakashi out of his daydreaming thoughts. Yes, Tsunade. Sama, I tracked Sasuke Uchiha's scent with my personal ninkin, Pakun. We found the scent when it started to rain, which made it impossible to track. Kakashi told Tsunade. Tsunade thought something was wrong with Kakashi's report, like something was bothering him. She looked down at her desk and thought about whether to ask this question, but she had to. What about Naruto? Even though Kakashi didn't say anything, something in his mind raised a red flag. Explain yourself. Didn't Naruto show up with the rest of his team? Kakashi asked with fear. At this, Tsunade seemed to lose steam. He wasn't found with them? Kakashi asked, afraid of the answer. No. Tell me please. Kakashi, tell me, did you find any sign of him? Begged Tsunade, she said. No. Pakun and I looked in the valley and along the river, but all we found were his scent, which stopped in the valley. Sasuke wasn't there either, but he's still alive, Kakashi said. I don't care about Uchiha. He can be spoiled. Naruto, where are you? Please tell me. Tsunade roared. Kakashi spoke, but he was cut off by the sound of a new voice. When Kakashi and Tsunade turned around to see Jiraiya sitting on the windowsill with his arms crossed, they couldn't believe how angry he looked. He had an inexplicable sneer on his face. What? At the same time, the other two ninjas said, thunder. The sound of the thunder made them feel scared. It's true that Fukasaku Sama called me and told me that Naruto's name was taken off the Myobokuzen summoning board. He's really dead, Jiraiya yelled. And he was killed by. The name Sasuke Uchiha made Jiraiya spit it out like it was poison. I stuttered Kakashi, but Jiraiya cut him off. Be quiet. Remember when you scolded me on the hospital roof for trying to teach Naruto how to defend himself because he would need it when the Akatsuki came after him? Growled Jiraiya. But what did you teach Sasuke? Yes, you taught him a lot of fire moves and the other. Hi Chidori. While you may have blocked the cursed seal's dark effects, you still gave him the power to use it. It almost sounds like you wanted Sasuke to use it. Kakashi just looked at the floor and felt bad. You didn't even bother to find out what kind of nature affinity Naruto had. According to Jiraiya, you just pushed him to the side and gave him to someone who openly hated him while you taught the Uchiha how to kill someone properly. Never treated you or any of your teammates better than everyone else. This is more proof that you're not ready to be a sensei. And now Minato's name is gone. All because you didn't bother to teach him. I can understand because of Obito, but still, you didn't pay much attention to Naruto. Jiraiya's words cut deep into Kakashi's heart. The only thing you taught him was how to use your chakra to climb trees, which is a basic skill for all ninjas. And all those pointless teamwork exercises, look how that turned out. I'm the only person that really taught him anything. I taught him one of his father's treasured jutsu, the Rasengan, and you berate me for teaching him what was rightfully his. Jiraiya nearly yelled. Because Kakashi needed to hear this, Tsunade didn't step in. She agreed with Jiraiya's assessment that Sarutobi never showed favoritism to Orochimaru, not even to him, her, or Jiraiya. You can add this to the list of all the failures you have made in your life. You failed Minato, you failed Kushina, and you also failed Obito and Rin. Jiraiya stopped his verbal attack and turned toward the window. The Minato would be. I'm sorry, Kushina. Sarutobi. Sensei would be let down. They would be let down. All of them would be upset with you. When it was his turn to leave, Jiraiya told him, I hope you have the guts to face them. He then jumped off the Hokage tower. And Kakashi said, Hokage. Sama. Just go. I want you to leave my sight right now. Don't show your face to me again in a week, the Hokage told Kakashi. He didn't look up. He just dragged himself out of the office. If you looked closely, you could see tears falling like a waterfall. She was crying quietly because her cursed necklace had taken another one of her loved ones, the boy she thought of as a son. She cried for hours because she would never hear the hyperactive blonde's voice again, see the hideous orange jumpsuit he loved to wear, or see his big, happy smile. She puts the blame on both Sasuke and Kakashi, but the blonde with the mustache would never come back to her, no matter who she blamed or how many times. Kakashi was on his way to the memorial stone, where he talked to his best friend Obito Uchiha every day. Uchiha was the one who gave him the Sharingan. He felt bad hearing what Jiraiya said, but he knew he had let down Minato, Kushina, Rin, Obito, and now Naruto. Kakashi had a lot of bad luck in his life. Kakashi. Sensei, the copycat ninja said. He looked up and saw Sakura Haruno, his last student. That girl with pink hair looked like she was upset, like she always had something on her mind. Kakashi said with a sad face, Yo. Sakura. She was interested and asked, Where are Naruto and Sasuke? Kun? He wasn't allowed to tell her in the street. Kakashi said, Follow me to the memorial stone. Sakura gave her sensei a nod and followed after her. As they got close to the memorial stone, they didn't say anything until Sakura started a conversation. She looked at the stone in front of her the whole time and said, Kakashi-sensei. I've been thinking lately. When I was waiting at the gates for Naruto and his team to come back, Ino asked me something. She asked me who I was waiting for, and I answered Naruto I was waiting for him and not Sasuke. Kun. She went on. Kakashi did nothing but listen to her. It was getting harder for him to tell her that Naruto was dead, and his guilt was making it worse. I then started thinking about Naruto and all he's done for me. I was so cruel to him when he just wanted to be my friend, I berated him when he brought up an idea and when Sasuke Kun suggested the same thing I'd praise him for it and not Naruto. I then remembered his promise to me. I could see he was hurt when I asked him to bring Sasuke back. I don't know whether he was hurt because he saw me so sad or whether it hurt him because he thought my heart belonged to someone else. But when he put aside his own feelings for my own I was so happy because he was so selfless and caring. Now that I think about it, he never treated me in a bad way. Every word she spoke made this harder for Kakashi. I then remembered a time when we were younger. I was being bullied by these boys who were making fun of my forehead, but Naruto came over and defended me. Eventually the boys beat him up. If it wasn't for my mom who came around the corner, they would continue beating him, so she stopped the boys hitting Naruto. But when she saw that it was him, she turned away and took my hand, saying to stay away from him. I was too young to understand. Maybe I'll never understand. Kakashi just let a few stray tears leave her eyes, knowing what her mother meant by avoiding this person. Later I became the one who would verbally hurt Naruto and put him down to make myself feel better. As Kakashi said, Sakura. She went on. When we became a Genin team I was so happy that I was on Sasuke Kun's team. Later I was sitting alone by myself when I saw Sasuke Kun. He complimented me on the one thing I hated, my forehead. But now when I look back at our time as a team, I realized that Sasuke would never say that to me, but it was something that Naruto would say. And now that I look back I figured something out, that the one I truly love, the one that would sacrifice anything for me, even his own happiness, the one that stood by me the whole time, is Naruto. I love Naruto. And when he comes back I'll tell him that, and then I'll share my feelings with him. She said with unwavering determination. I used to think that I knew what love was, but it was just some wayward crush. True love is putting one's happiness above your own, and that's what Naruto would do for me in a heartbeat. But I want to be happy with him. Kakashi couldn't handle this. He would have to tell her she had a right to know. So when are Naruto, Kun and Sasuke, Kun going to be back? She asked with pure joy. Kakashi said, that's the problem, Sakura. The girl with pink hair didn't understand why Kakashi was so sad. There were problems with the mission to get the items back, Kakashi said with his head down. She was scared of the worst and asked Kakashi, what do you mean? What did Kakashi know that she didn't? Naruto is dead. Those words would break glass. She took a few steps back and muttered, no. It can't be. Her eyes were now watering, and she felt a pain in her chest that felt like someone was squeezing her heart. He was killed by Sasuke. That was the last straw, and Sakura's tears began to flow. She left the training ground quickly, leaving Kakashi alone. Kakashi didn't even look at the memorial stone because he felt so bad about what he had done. He got down on his knees as the tears came back. As Kakashi sobbed freely, Minato. Sensei. I'm sorry I failed to protect your son. No one had seen this side of Kakashi since Obito died. Shikamaru Nara was waiting in the hospital. He hadn't heard from his teammates. What was even worse was that there was no news about Naruto. He fought a strong member of Orochimaru's elite followers. She used summons and a strange flute, and he would have died if Gaara's sister Temari hadn't shown up. He only hurt himself by breaking his finger. In the corner of his eye, he saw Tsunade, the Godem Hokage, walking toward him. He could see tears running down his face. She got his full attention when she said, Shikamaru, we need to talk. It's about Naruto. But when she told him the news, it seemed to take away his hope. He yelled in the hospital, it can't be no. No, no, no. As she started to cry again, she said, I will call a council meeting and then I will tell the village I'm truly sorry. She ignored Nara and kept saying, no, over and over. The council room was full. In the middle of the room was a table that looked like a half circle. On the left were the heads of the shinobi councils, on the right were the heads of the civilian councils, and in the middle were the elders. Then Tsunade slowly walked in with her head down. This seemed to make the shinobi council and the elders think of something. Tsunade. Sama, why did you call us today? Asked Kaharu Udatane, one of the Hokage's close friends. I came to inform you of the results of the retrieval team tasked with capturing Sasuke Uchiha and returning him to the village. She said without emotion. A fat member of the civilian council asked, so Uchiha Sama has been sent back to the village? No, the mission was a failure. It resulted with a shinobi being mildly injured, to another that would require care for a few weeks, 2 critically injured and 1 death. Someone from the crowd asked, so who were the shinobi that were hurt? The one that was mildly wounded was Shikamaru Nara, the other that would require some treatment is Kiba Inuzuka, and the 2 that were critically injured were Choji Akamichi and Neji Hyuga. Tsunade was told. And who was the one death? Hiyashi Hyuga asked with a sense of interest. The choked Tsunade, Naruto. Uzumaki, he was killed by Sasuke Uchiha. The civilian council cheered as soon as they heard the news. They were glad that the demon was gone and that Uchiha Sama saved us. The shinobi council was both sad and disgusted when they heard this. They were sad about the blonde's death because they thought he was a good person who couldn't do anything bad. They weren't stupid. They knew the difference between a kunai and the scroll it was sealed in. And they didn't like how the civilian council didn't care about the blonde's life at all. The elders were worried because they had lost their Jinchuriki, which meant their military strength had dropped sharply. If other countries heard that Konoha had lost its Jinchuriki, they might attack. Tsunade was so mad at how stupid the civilians were that she could hardly hold it in. They were fine until one of them asked a silly question. Hokage Sama, we the civilian council request that a statue be erected to honor Uchiha Sama's great deed. Shut up. No, I will never create a statue for that spoiled brat. He just abandoned the village, joined Orochimaru and killed a Konoha nin, and I the Godem Hokage hereby declare Sasuke Uchiha a wanted nuke nin. Tsunade told Tsunade her anger was greater. It was said by Shikaku Nara, the shinobi council second this declaration. It was agreed upon by all the other shinobi clan leaders. Later, the village learned that Naruto had died and Sasuke had betrayed him. Half of the village was celebrating the death of the demon by cheering and throwing parties. The other half were sad because the blonde had already done so much for them. Gaara was crushed when he heard the news. The first person who treated him like a person worth living for was dead. He promised himself that he would work hard to become great to honor Naruto's memory. He wouldn't let his desire for revenge take over, but he would kill Sasuke Uchiha if he saw him. Iruka was sad and angry at the same time. The person who was like a younger brother to him had died, and the stupid villagers were celebrating. He knew what kind of life Naruto lived and understood how much pain he was in. Even worse, though, was the fact that Naruto had been killed by one of his own students. He chose to stay in his apartment by himself, and no one saw the scarred Chunin for a week before he came out. He looked like a mess to everyone else. He had bags under his eyes and red, puffy cheeks and eyes from crying so much. When everyone found out that Naruto had died, Konohamaru took it the worst. He locked himself in his room and didn't come out much for a week, until Naruto's funeral. For him, the boy with whiskers was like an older brother. But now he was gone, just like his grandfather, the Sandaime Hokage. He hadn't been for a long time. The smell of ramen didn't wake him up, and just hearing Naruto's name made him feel worse. He hadn't felt this way since his grandfather died when Orochimaru come into the village with Suna's help. After Naruto died, it rained all the time, as if the heavens were crying because such a good person was gone. Everyone who liked Naruto or had met him in real life was there, except Kakashi, who wasn't invited, and Jiraiya, who couldn't go because it hurt too much for him. The people who did show up were all the Konoha genin who took the last Chunin exams, along with their proctors and sensei. The Sand siblings also went. After a few hours, everyone left the funeral except for Konohamaru Sarutobi, who stayed. He didn't look inside the tomb. He just looked at the stone. Konohamaru made a promise he meant to keep. I promise that your sacrifice won't be in vain. I will carry on your legacy and get stronger for your sake, Naruto. Nissan. The elder sage was thinking deeply at Myobokuzen. How could someone so great die so young? He knew in his heart that Naruto was the child he spoke about in his dreams. Why did everyone think he was dead? Unless there was another force behind Naruto's return, and the elder knew it wasn't good in any case. In a dark place stood a man with metallic purple eyes and rings of light around the pupil. But his body was skewed so that it looked like a rainbow. Then he saw pictures of other people with different skewed eyes appearing all around him. Of all of them wore black cloaks with red clouds on them. A tall man with sharp eyes asked, "When was the last time we were all here?" "It's not been 7 years since Orochimaru quit the organization to pursue his stupid goals," someone with a hunchback said. "Oh, Orochimaru has the Sharingan." "Hey, Itachi, isn't that your little brother?" asked someone else. Itachi didn't seem to respond to this jab, and he didn't say anything else either. The plant. Like one among them said, "The Kyuubi Jinchuriki is dead." The member with the rippled eyes asked in a scary voice, "Really, Zetsu? Who killed the Kyuubi Jinchuriki?" The plant man, who was now known as Zetsu, said, "It was Sasuke Uchiha Itachi's brother. If you had only killed your brother the night of the massacre, the Kyuubi would still be alive. Instead its chakra is dispersed, which has set us back by years," chided another with green eyes. Itachi didn't say anything, but he had a different thought. As Itachi closed his eyes, he thought, "Foolish little brother, you have made the worst mistake anyone could make in your shoes. We will just have to wait until the Kyuubi reforms, although that will take about 5 years. Until then we extract the rest of the Biju. But the Kyuubi must be sealed last or else the plan will fail. Now go and use the time you have now to train yourselves until we face the Jinchuriki," told the person that seemed to be the leader. Then all of the bodies in the illusion started to go away. Besides Itachi. Saiyan, I don't think you're dead. If you are, then what are you doing? That's what Itachi thought as his fake body disappeared. A dried out man sitting alone was sitting on a tree. Like throne. His hair was light gray and fell to his waist. He had 2 shoulder length bangs, and the one on the right side covered his whole eye. Most of his body was covered by a black robe, but there were 3 tubes on his back that led to a huge statue. He was very thin, started to go away. Besides Itachi. Saiyan, I don't think you're dead. If you are, then what are you doing? That's what Itachi thought as his fake body disappeared. A dried out man sitting alone was sitting on a tree like throne. His hair was light gray and fell to his waist. He had 2 shoulder length bangs, and the one on the right side covered his whole eye. Most of his body was covered by a black robe, but there were 3 tubes on his back that led to a huge statue. He was very thin, and his face was full of wrinkles. You could see 1 Sharingan eye. He also had what was left of an old kusarigama, which could be used as a cane. If someone saw him, they would think he wasn't breathing because he didn't seem to be moving. In his life, this man had seen and fought in thousands of battles. Death was always in his line of sight. Still, it didn't bother him at all. Too much of his life had been lost to war and hatred. People used to call him a god, but now he was just a dusty scroll who refused to fade away. He hasn't seen the sun or smelled the trees around him in a long time. Time had no meaning or purpose for him. He was just waiting, but he didn't know what. He hadn't seen someone else's face in. It doesn't matter how long. As his subordinate Zetsu got up from the ground, he seemed to lose his train of thought. His fly trap was the first thing he saw, but Zetsu holding a bundle of cloth caught his attention right away. The bundle wasn't too big or too small, but it was smaller than Zetsu. He breathed out a hoarse Zetsu. The dried out man pointed his scythe at the cloth and asked, "What are you doing here? And what is that in your arms?" "I'm here because of what I'm carrying," Zetsu replied. It was with care that he put the bundle on the ground in front of the old man, who narrowed his one visible eye. The man took out his kusarigama and cut the wad with the blade. He became even more suspicious when he saw what he did. It looked like a boy, but it was actually a dead boy with a huge hole in his chest. This boy had sun-kissed blonde hair that was wild and untamed. His eyes were closed, and he had 3 clear marks on each cheek that looked like whiskers. He was also wearing an offensive orange jumpsuit that made him feel even worse. The mummy asked Zetsu, "Tell me, why did you bring me this body?" With a sad face. "You've always wanted someone to keep your plans going, and I've found someone who can promise that," Zetsu said happily, as if nothing had happened. The old man began to cough and said, "I would have preferred someone whose blade had pierced flesh and taken life away, and more importantly if his heart was beating. But what if I told you that this boy is a former Jinchuriki who also descends from the Uzumaki clan?" said Zetsu. The man was interested because he knew a lot about the Uzumaki clan, especially how they were related to the Senju and how powerful their chakra was. "It's true," Zetsu said. "Oh, he was also killed by a Uchiha for the Mangekyo." It didn't bother the old man. The man said, "Interesting. A member of the Uzumaki clan and a former Jinchuriki. Interesting. He could become a very powerful shinobi if taught correctly. This could give me the chance to continue it. So you assume that if I return his life, then persuade him to become part of my plan, he could become an extraordinarily powerful asset that could further my goals?" asked the elderly man. Where the colored thing in front of him gave him a nod. "Very good, Zetsu." The man looked at Naruto's body in a different way. "But what do you think of his level of skill?" the tired man asked. "From what I was able to gather, he knows the basic ninjutsu from the academy, but he has 3 powerful jutsu in his arsenal. But don't bother with genjutsu. With his chakra levels he would be unable to perform genjutsu. However, I don't know about taijutsu," explained Zetsu. The white half looked pleased that he was making his master happy. The other person didn't seem to care. "And what would these ninjutsu be?" asked the thirsty man. "He knows the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and the Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Also he knows a powerful A-rank ninjutsu that took its creator 3 years to develop, but it took him 1 week to master," claimed the 2 parts. The old shinobi was now knee-deep in the boy and trying to grab him. For those who knew the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, it didn't matter how smart or hard they worked. They could gain a year's worth of experience in just 6 months. And an A-rank jutsu that he learned in just 1 week. Zetsu told him that he had a lot of potential. "You truly brought me a diamond among rocks, Zetsu. My faith is not given out easily, but you have earned it." His one Sharingan changed into a purple eye with many rings around the pupil that looked like waves. He did a few hand seals before stopping at the snake seal and putting all of his chakra into it. "Geto. Rinne Tensai no Jutsu. There was a purple aura around a demonic head that faded into the ground. The kanji for king was written on its forehead. When it opened its mouth, a single wisp of green energy flew out and caught Naruto's body. It healed the wound where Naruto's heart should have been right away, but there was a scar over his heart that looked like lightning sparks spreading out from where the attack happened. Madara was sure that he would die if he wasn't connected to the statue. After a short time, heavy breathing could be heard coming from Naruto. He wasn't dead, but he wasn't awake either. He won't wake up for a few more days, so Zetsu, start a blood transfusion. Zetsu did what his master told him to do and got the tools he would need ready. After a few hours, the blood transfusion worked perfectly. Now, the boy had the man's blood running through his veins, giving him the old man's gifts. So tell me, Zetsu of the Uchiha that killed him? The old man was interested, but he needed Zetsu to make sure what he thought was true. Oh, could I tell him please? The white half begged the black half. The black half knew that its other half would talk over it, so it let the white half say whatever was on its mind. Fine. The white half tried to come up with a name for the other half and said, well, the Uchiha was just. That's right, he left the village to join up with a nuke. Nin. What was his name? The black half replied, Orochimaru. They've seen the man before and were just talking about what he did at a meeting. The name is simple and easy to remember. Yeah, that's it. Who is this? Orochimaru? He. Said the white man before the black man cut him off. He was a student of Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage. During the Second Great Shinobi War, he and his teammates Jiraiya and Tsunade Senju did a lot to help his village. The old man scowled at the name, Senju, as if someone had just kicked his dog. They later fought an icon of the shinobi world, Hanzo no Sanshuo, where the old ninja would spare the three of them and give them the title of Densetsu no Sanin. Later Orochimaru performed ghastly experiments on children where he would later flee his village and become a criminal. He was also the orchestrator of the Konoha invasion. I informed you of where he assassinated the Yondaime Kazekage and tried to assassinate the Sandaime Hokage, his former teacher, but he was barely able to kill the old Hokage despite the fact that Sarutobi lost much of his power thanks to old age. Orochimaru even went as far to revive his two predecessors, but their power was being limited at the time. Even still, the Sandaime came out on top when he sealed the two Hokage and took away the ability to wield hand seals by sealing Orochimaru's arms. This Orochimaru was barely able to kill Tobirama's monkey, even when old age had affected him, and he couldn't kill this Hanzo, a shinobi from some backwash village, even with two others, among them a Senju. The old ninja was fast gathering his thoughts. Orochimaru doesn't sound like much of a great shinobi. I know that Sarutobi is strong, he may be stronger than Tobirama, but he is still far from comparing to Hashirama's or my own level in power. My future student would become much greater of a threat than his pet of a Uchiha. The man said as he darkly laughed. After a few days, Naruto woke up and saw that it was dark. Getting used to the little light in the dark place, he adjusted his eyes. Where am I? Am I dead? Naruto asked in a low voice, hoping someone would hear him. His only wish was to hear a voice that would reassure him. To make him feel better. He thought he was dead, but was he really? Then there was a voice that cut through the silence like a knife through butter. He looked up and saw. In the realm between that which is eternal. The Sandaime Hokage was not even close to this guy's age when it came to old age. He stood there like a statue over him. This guy looks a lot like Sasuke. Like him, is he a Uchiha? I think Naruto as he looked at the man with his eyes half closed. He was numb all over, and the only things he could feel were the air and dust on his skin. A realm between that which is eternal. What kind of place is it? The blonde asked as he stared at the tired and numb man. The realm was too dark for Naruto's liking, so the light wouldn't follow him. A realm of nothingness would be more accurate, the old man said. I think that lies between two higher powers. Naruto looked at him again, trying to understand what he was saying. Where was he? How did he get here? I don't remember much now that I think about it, he said. As he paused, it all came back to him. The mission to find his friend and the promise he made to Sakura. His passing away. He yelled, Sasuke. As he pulled himself up. Oh whoa 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 whoa. He chanted while holding the area above his heart. What? I don't feel any pain? Where's the wound? In the place where his heart should have been, he saw a strange scar that looked like lightning across his chest. He had nothing on. After that, he looked at the old man one more time. I have healed your wounds and brought you back to life. If you can feel your heart beating, that means you're still alive, the old man said. Naruto just stared at him with wide eyes, but he looked down and saw that the man was holding an old scythe that sparkled a little. No. You're a Shinigami who's brought me back to life, so to take me to hell please, please I want to live. Screamed Naruto in a girly way. Okay, sorry if I took those pervy magazines, they're not mine, I swore they're Kiba's. The old man started to sweat when he saw how the blonde was acting. What did sexy magazines have to do with it? With a small smirk, the old man said, I am a Shinigami. In a way, but I am not the young Uzumaki, and you are not dead yet. Naruto looked at the old man. He seemed like an old bat who would fight with his wife. Still, though. Naruto thanked the old man, so you saved me. Thanks. He was glad to be alive in general. But he had an idea. He screamed at the top of his lungs, no. Please tell me you're not some shinobi pedo like that Orochimaru. Teme. Tears filled his eyes as he spoke. I don't swing that way. Someone please save me. I am not a pedo, young Uzumaki, the old man said, slightly angry at the blonde in front of him for being rude and stupid. Naruto yelled, oh, and if you aren't a pedo then where are my clothes? The old man deadpanned, I burned them. This woke Naruto up, and he began crying anime tears over his favorite jumpsuit. While Naruto was asking himself, did he have to burn my underwear? There were little frogs on the underwear, and they were meant to be burned. But still, it's way too early to thank me, he said. This caught the blonde's attention. And I'm sure you follow some nindo. Naruto was about to answer, but he was stopped. The man looked at Naruto with interest and said, don't answer that. I just know I'm right. The man did have a nindo. You just seem like the type that won't go back on his word. Naruto let out a sigh. His body was still numb, but he could move in some way. I'm sorry, old man, but I have to leave because my friends are counting on me and I need to be there for them. Naruto said this with a bit of resolve. I also need to keep a promise I made to someone important to me, Naruto said. He slowly got off the bed, but as soon as he tried to stand up, he fell. The blanket over his body still covered his private parts. I have to return home, I have to, my friends need to know I'm alive. Madara sighed and said, a promise you must keep. As he watched Naruto run around on the icy ground. I have just brought you back to life, your muscles and internal organs are just starting to function again. It will take some time to fully recuperate from your revival, and if you move around more you'll only damage yourself even more and you may die again. No, I can't give up. I'll go back to Konoha, even if you bring me back to life, Naruto grunted as he tried to pick himself up from the floor but couldn't because his body was still too weak and he felt like his stomach was twisting. The old man sighed as he watched the boy try and fail to get out of the dark shack. But the blonde would kill himself if he didn't get some rest. He could barely get off the ground. The man asked the boy, why do you keep doing the same thing and expect a different result? As he watched him fail again and again. The child was determined, he had to say. Naruto yelled, because I don't give up and I always keep my word. That's my my shinobi way. He was too stubborn to be broken. The man kept staring at the boy. The boy was very determined, and the man could tell he had a strong will. People could be judged by a glance, but to form an opinion on them, you had to see them do something. Those words are empty and not full of conviction. No matter how the wind howls, the mountain cannot bow to it. The man's words were wise. Saying something is far different than doing something. You have yet to realize that this is your birth by sleep, to wake up from this reality and accept what is before your eyes. Naruto said, but he felt a few tears at the edges of his eyes as he lay on the dirty ground with his face buried in the cold ground. He felt helpless because he couldn't get back to his friends no matter how hard he tried. He calmed down and decided that he wouldn't be going anywhere until he was better. The old man put his scythe or cane next to Naruto's bed and gently helped him get back on it. Just who are you? Naruto asked in a low voice as he laid back on the bed. The person who brought him back to life should at least have been named. The man walked over to his root. like throne, sat down, and cleared his throat to get the boy's attention. The man now known as Madara said, "As for who I am the ghost of the Uchiha. I am Madara Uchiha." At this point, light seemed to fill the dark room. As Naruto's eyes got used to the new light, he saw a huge flower the height of a mountain with a huge statue sitting in a lotus position with its hands tied together. There were small tubes that went from the statue to the man. Naruto looked back at the famous shinobi with blank eyes and then laughed. Madara dropped his sweat when he saw the blonde. For one thing, it was easier for him to believe that the old man was the Shinigami. For another, he thought the man was a pedo, and for a third, he had the Sharingan. "Uzumaki, look into my eyes." Naruto looked and saw two eyes, one of which was hidden behind his bang. Naruto had forgotten about those eyes, and he kept telling himself, "Stupid," over and over again for not seeing them. Naruto stuttered, "S. So you are Madara Uchiha?" He looked into the angry, hateful eyes. In a calm voice, Madara said, "Yes, and I have also given you the power of the Uchiha clan." Naruto asked with a hint of excitement, I can awaken the Sharingan." Madara said, "Yes, and you can use the bloodline just like any other Uchiha." Naruto smiled and said, "Cool. You know, old man, you ain't half bad." Naruto smiled his foxy grin. He didn't care anymore because he could get those cool eyes and maybe even do genjutsu. Yes, but young Uzumaki. Tell me, what do you think of this reality?" said Madara. He had to figure out how he was going to get the blonde to help him. "What do you mean?" Naruto asked as the smile on his face faded. What Madara really meant was, "What do you expect from this world?" Naruto replied, "Well, I hope this world is full of love and friendship, and maybe a place where people can understand each other and not fear and hate each other." Madara laughed at the idea. In this world, people don't get what they wish most, and that is a fact. We are subjected to the whims of this reality, that is filled with suffering and hatred. When there is light, there is also darkness. One cannot exist without the other. This world is full of pain and futility. Those are the only things that exist in this reality," said Madara. "There are only winners and losers in this world, along with the selfish desires to create a lasting peace. But there can be no peace when the world is flooded by rage. The selfish desire of peace will only be temporary and war will rise. Hatred is birthed from the protection of love and more hatred will follow after it like vultures. Everything I have said is nexuses, bound together by an unbreakable chain that keeps adding on to its links. The chain cannot be broken for we all wear it. There is nowhere to break the chain. Normally. Some of what you say is true," Naruto said to himself as he turned away from Madara. "I hate this world. I loathe it with every cell in my body. This world is hell and I have been condemned to live in it. Only the powerful decide fate and not the weak. Without strength you will become a slave to those who are. I have cheated death too many times to know that I am strong enough to decide my fate, but still I'll be dead soon, for immortality doesn't truly exist. But even still the strong can only do so much when compared to the power of the world. Time is every mon's enemy, for it devours all things and nothing remains afterwards. I despise this world with all my being. That's why I want to change it, change what has been fated for this world," spoke of Madara. "I will create a world of peace and love where there is no hatred and no pain." Naruto said, "That sounds wrong." Madara was told, "You will think that way. For now. However, you could have anything you ever wanted in this dream world. I know how you Jinchuriki are treated. Sorry, former Jinchuriki. They saw you as nothing more than a constant reminder of their pain." The Madara clarified. "Let me guess. The villagers, they feared you, hated you, denied you the right to live, the right to love, and they ignored your existence altogether. You were a nobody. Am I correct?" said the shinobi. But Naruto's hair covered his eyes, so he only said, "Well, yes." The angry Uchiha said, "Then those people were stupid. They let their fears control them and their hatred blinded them. As long as there are things in this world that people don't understand, they will always live in terror." Ended the Madara. Naruto yelled, "But there are people I still care about." "Like who? Fellow clan member, killed you?" Madara asked back. Naruto then started to remember his time with Sasuke, and he was right. Sasuke's anger had taken over him and made him someone who would hurt anyone to get power. "I see that you understand. Even if you try to leave this place, with your power and your weak body, death will come to you quickly," Madara said loudly. Naruto gave up because he knew he was right. Naruto asked, "What would happen in this dream world?" Anything you ever wanted would come true. You could make people, change landscapes, and even bring the dead back to life, Madara said. Naruto gasped. He could meet his parents and learn who they were. Madara then put chakra into his left eye and said, Tsukuyomi, in a low voice. After that, Naruto and Madara were taken to a white space. This is how the dream world will look at first. Then Madara started to look different. He looked much younger and healthier. This is what will happen, it's a genjutsu. However, my eye cannot create this. I require a stronger power in order to create this genjutsu. He asked, what would you need? Because he liked this plan more and more. In order to cast the genjutsu, I or another Mangekyo Sharingan user must cast the Tsukuyomi on the moon. Madara was told. What Madara said didn't bother Naruto. He just said, sounds easy enough. No. If I could just cast Tsukuyomi on the moon, I would have done it already. Replied Madara. The old Uchiha then began to talk about the history of the Jubi, the Rakudo Sennin, and his sons. Naruto understood everything that was said to him and said, I see we need the power of the Jubi as a catalyst so we can cast the Tsukuyomi on the moon. His smart speech surprised Madara. Exactly. However, in order to revive the Jubi, we need to combine the 9 Biju and seal them within the Gedomazo, and then one of us would become its Jinchuriki and we'd cast the Genjutsu on the world, forcing everyone into the dreamscape. According to Madara, I have given you my blood which will allow you to control the Gedomazo, however you require the Rinnegan to summon it. Naruto and Madara were no longer in the Genjutsu. Uzumaki. I gave you a second chance, so will you repay me someday? Asked Madara. Naruto had sad eyes, and his hair was in front of them. He did nod his head, though. This was the perfect chance to get back at those stupid villagers. So. Now is the time to ask. What is your first name? Said Madara. The blonde Uzumaki took off his mental mask and said, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Maelstrom. That's a strong name. A good one too. And do you have any regrets? Spoke to Madara. Naruto looked Madara in the eyes and said, I regret not killing Sasuke Uchiha. But instead of being ocean blue, they were now blood red with 3 tomos surrounding the pupil. The pattern changed into 3 pointed scythes surrounding his red pupil. The eyes almost looked like they were hungry for death, to take lives like Shinigami. The eyes showed the person's soul. The eyes showed the need to harvest life itself. Madara said with a small smile, very well. From today on, you are now my student. Naruto. Today we will commence the Eye of the Moon plan. Stated Naruto. And bring peace to this world. She was crushed. The boy who seemed to have loved her was gone. A certain blonde ball of energy had died not long ago. Not only was she in pain, but so was Hinata. She had a crush on the idiot and never had the guts to tell him, but now she had lost her chance too. She didn't do anything useful. If she were stronger, she could have helped Naruto. But no, she was busy adoring someone who didn't like her. The kid who loved orange and had ocean colored eyes thought she was the center of the world because she couldn't see the obvious truth. But now that he was gone, the village seemed to feel empty and emotionless. A dark gray had covered the village, covering all the color with a dull, lifeless color. There didn't seem to be as much sun shining on the buildings and people, and the light wasn't as warm and soothing to the touch. It wasn't cold either. It was just in the middle. But the warmth she felt around him was almost like being next to the sun. She missed the warmth she felt every day. To be exact, she never felt that way around Sasuke. He was, is, and always will be cold as the moon. The wind was strong and the sun was no longer warm. Cold. Since he left, it rained more often. Died, and the place should have been called the Land of Fire, not the Land of Sad Rain. She understood how a Megakir felt. But why did it rain more than usual? It looked like the sky was crying over the death of someone whose personality was so much like the sky's, happy, carefree, and free. He was like that, all that space and to do everything you could to the best of your ability. He didn't care about the world's rules or laws, so he made his own. No one would yell at him, so he could get away with anything. Sakura sometimes thought he was so lucky not to have parents who would yell at or punish him. But did she really believe that? If she could live in Naruto's world for a week, she might understand how he feels. In the village, people would sometimes say, you can't really understand someone until you walk a mile in their shoes. That sentence really did ring true. Things seemed to be back to normal in the village, but some wounds took a lot longer to heal than others. Everyone seemed to have forgotten about the blonde, but Sakura could see that they still had scars. It looked like they hated her for some reason that the pinkette couldn't figure out. She always wondered why, but she didn't want to find out because she thought it would cost her more than it was worth. Konohamaru was the only person she saw every day who was closer to Naruto than she was. After the orange loving boy died, she would check on the Sarutobi heir to see if he was trying to fix the pain in his heart, but he would always say, "I'm fine," or "just training," making her sad, so she left him alone to deal with his grief on his own. "I will continue his legacy" was the only thing that made her heart race. She felt like there was a chance right around the corner after reading that sentence, but she couldn't stop thinking about it. What should she do? Things that could be great, things that he thought were great. More than anything else, she wanted him to look down and be proud of her and all she had done. She had dreams that she would kill herself and go to the other life to be with him. But would that really make things better? The blonde worked hard to improve the village all the time. He helped orphans, the poor, and the downtrodden by giving them his money and showing that he understood how they felt. Selflessness was one thing she loved about him. He would do almost anything for anyone, and he always helped people, whether they were friends or foes. Even though he was always happy and loud. Something about that always made her laugh. She thought back to when her team did the tree climbing activity and how well she seemed to be able to control her chakra. There must have been something that required such great control, but she was sure she would remember it soon. Tsunade Senju was doing the thing she dreaded the most while sitting at her desk. Doing paperwork, sending missions, and approving D ranks. Things that didn't really matter. She would die for a certain wild blonde to call her Ba Chan, even though she hated that nickname. She let him call her that, though. There was pain inside her, just like everyone else who knew the blonde with the sun on her skin. It was like she had a horrible feeling that wouldn't go away, like a parasite. She loved the orange lover like he was her own son. She had finally found someone special to give her necklace to, but the curse on it had taken the boy away from her. She thought that the stories were true and that the cursed necklace would only accept her as a holder. She should have done more to help him. For example, she could have given him more money or better living conditions. What they saw was that Naruto had made a lot of money from all the missions he did. She heard that he only brought things he needed and rarely spent the money. But he also needed things like love, friends, and family. He didn't pay attention to his own needs while spending his money on other people. He had a lot of cash. He didn't spend much time with his friends, so either he didn't really get to know them or they thought he was a bother and avoided him like everyone else. She thought, he could have found better clothes than that jumpsuit. Naruto gave all the money he got as a shinobi to orphans in the orphanage. But after he died, the money stopped going to the orphans. The matron who runs the place even told her about it, but every time she was asked, she always said, it was signed as anonymous. That kid. Heart of gold, for sure. Someone who was rude was actually a kind spirit, full of good things. He had the purest soul you could ever meet. She thought that he would earn the respect of the village one day, whether it was today or some other day. She looked to the left and picked up a picture. On the way back to Konoha, where she would become Hokage, she saw the blonde with the golden hair. They were both smiling big in the picture while she hugged him. But now that the Uchiha had taken him away, he was like a son to him. She gave her ninja the order to capture him on sight if he ever saw him. She wouldn't kill him because he wouldn't want that, and because they needed the Sharingan, the civilian council and the elders swayed her decision. She scoffed angrily. The councilors thought the Sharingan was an important part of Konoha's power. They also said that since the Sharingan could control the tailed beasts, they didn't even need the Kyuubi. But since Madara Uchiha, there hasn't been a Uchiha who could fully control the power of a Biju, so it wasn't likely. When she heard a knock on the door, Tsunade woke up. She wasn't sure who it was because she had sent Shizune on an important task, so she let the person in. She was shocked to see Sakura Haruno, who works with Naruto. She was lost now. What does she want? The first thing Tsunade thought of when she saw the pinkette's brown, honey eyes was, fangirl. That thought was strengthened when she saw Sakura hug Sasuke like her life depended on it. She also saw Naruto's hurt face when she hugged Sasuke, that little spoiled brat. Tsunade had met and seen a lot of fangirls in her long life. All of them were crazy about their crushes, looks, talents, and how cool someone was. Most of the time, it didn't matter to them, and the person who caught their eye wasn't interested in them. In a way, they were all after mirrors, and Sakura was no different. The girl had probably never seen such a big fangirl before. Aside from the fact that Sasuke was a Uchiha, he wasn't worth much. He was only valuable if he had the Mangekyo Sharingan. When the girl with pink hair spoke, it broke the silence like a stick. Tsunade. Sama. I wish to speak with you. She told me. The woman with the big bust and blonde hair could tell she was nervous because their eyes didn't meet, and the girl's body language looked like she felt guilty. Aside from seeing Sakura with Naruto and a few other times around the village, she hadn't really met her. She would still listen to the girl, though. Tsunade changed into her strong Hokage form, which included a serious face and tough eyes. In a way that only a leader can, she asked, "Do you need anything, Sakura?" Sakura spoke up and said, "Tsunade. Sama, I ask you to take me on as your apprentice." Sakura's heart was racing so fast that it took all of her courage to stand there in front of the woman. What made her agree to this? Why did she go to see the Hokage, who was the leader of her village? She felt like her courage was leaking out like water through a crack. She thought she was going to break at any moment like broken glass. It hurt so much to walk into her office. But she had to prove something that would make everyone, including him, proud of her. That's not how she felt right now. She wanted to be tall and sure of herself like a kunoichi. It really surprised Tsunade. She didn't think this question would come from her. Still, why? She easily understood the request, but there had to be another reason for it. But why her? There were many other tutors in Konoha, and even Kurenai would have been fine. But she learned from the Godem Hokage, who is the strongest woman in the world. It wasn't a coincidence, and that's why she thought it had something to do with someone. Shizune. Tsunade yelled in a strong voice. Her assistant or apprentice ran in through the door carrying several stacks of papers that she had been sent to get and had just come back with. Tsunade knew she was there in some way. Yes, Tsunade. Sama? She asked. She got mad every time her Mazer spoke in this way. Still in her strong voice, she said, "Please bring me the file on Sakura Haruno." Shizune agreed and quickly left the room to get the file. The two kunoichi that were left in the room were as quiet as a grave. Tsunade crossed her fingers and put her hands in front of her face. She was looking at the girl in front of her, and the first thing that came to mind was fangirl, which is the worst thing that could happen to a real kunoichi. Ninjas like this gave the word kunoichi a bad name, which is why they were never taken seriously. Also, she was too skinny and didn't have much muscle. Was she on a diet? Before, Tsunade was looking at Sakura closely.
Sakura didn't know what she was thinking or feeling, but she knew it wasn't good because of the way she was looking at her.
She couldn't give up. She had something to prove, and if she broke down in front of Tsunade, nothing would get done. Shizune brought the folder back to the Hokage's office and gave it to her master. Tsunade told her to leave because what was about to happen had to be done in private. Before opening the folder, Tsunade looked at it carefully. One page had a picture of Sakura after she had just become a genin. She read every word in the file and looked at every page and detail in the folder. Tsunade snapped the flap closed and looked back at the girl in front of her. "Hi, Sakura Haruno. Some things in your files say that. These things really make me unhappy," Tsunade said. Sakura was hurt, but she knew it was true. She would be stupid to lie about it. It reads. Doesn't care about shinobi training and skills. Too caught up in their own feelings, which gets in the way of working together and focusing, Tsunade said. It also has reports on your missions in the preliminary battle for the Chunin exam with Ino Yamanaka. Your mission reports, mostly the ones from when you were a first class citizen and then an A class citizen, go into great detail about how, over reliance on teammates when faced with a superior adversary clouded judgment and stayed behind the scenes without participating once in team action to save their sensei who was trapped. So there's the report on your first match against Ino Yamanaka. The words you chose are pathetic. Kurenai Yuhi wrote it. Asuma Sarutobi says she barely has mastery of the basic academy jutsu and showed no other skills other than below average taijutsu. Anko Midarashi says she is ashamed to all kunoichi and asks, who let her into the academy?
Ibiki Morino says it. It was easy for Sakura to see that everything she said was true. She couldn't argue with that. Tsunade told Sakura, but this is not important. As she finished reading the report. Why do you want to become my apprentice? For Tsunade, that was the most important question. Because I want to be a strong kunoichi. And help the Leaf Village and become a great medic. Nin, Sakura said with a cocky air. No. Was the answer Sakura heard. When she looked up, Tsunade was looking at her with pity. Sakura, tell me the truth, why do you want to hire me? Tsunade asked. I want to become stronger. Sakura gasped at the answer. The Hokage knew she was lying, but she still wants to know the truth. Medical ninjutsu is something I want to learn so I can help people. I know that people die, but that doesn't mean we can't let them live. She began to cry freely. I don't want people like Naruto to die. I want to get strong so that he'll be proud of me. I want my life to have a purpose. I don't want Naruto's death to be for nothing. I want his will to live on through me and everyone else. Please hire me as your apprentice, the genin with pink hair begged. While Tsunade was expecting that answer, seeing Sakura break down in front of her was a lot like when Dan and Nawaki were killed in the Second Shinobi World War. Those two were her life, and when she lost them, a piece of herself went with them. You will be my apprentice from tomorrow on. Don't think it'll be easy on you, though. My training will be tough, Tsunade said in a serious tone. She got herself together and told her new teacher, yes, Tsunade. Sensei, I won't fail you. After that, a new promise was made to a boy with blonde hair. Old man Madara Uchiha was sitting on a wooden throne in the dark and cold. He had a kusarigama in his hand, which he used as a cane, and he was watching his only student Naruto Uzumaki being tortured. Well, it was more like a workout. Naruto's rehabilitation was over a week ago, and now his muscles and internal organs are working properly. The first thing they worked on was his muscles. When Naruto first started, he had a lot of baby fat and not much muscle, which needed to be fixed quickly. Madara knew that the blonde needed to be in top fighting shape so that one day one of his punches could break a stone. So he pushed Naruto to train. The new sensei ripped Naruto's old clothes, so Zetsu brought him new ones after he woke up. His new clothes were a leather vest, pants that looked like Anbu, fingerless leather gloves, and black ninja sandals. When asked where Zetsu got them, the black half didn't answer, but the white half did. It said that the big flower was making even more white Zetsu and that the fake humans could change into other people and buy clothes with fake money. That's how Zetsu got the clothes, and no one asked any more questions. Surprisingly, Madara knew a little about Fuinjutsu. Right away, he made Naruto gravity seals that would make him faster, stronger, and bigger. It was a good plan. Madara could already see the results of the tour. Training he had Naruto do. There was a faint buildup of muscle where Naruto had planned to make muscles that would one day be as hard as wood. Madara clothes with fake money. That's how Zetsu got the clothes, and no one asked any more questions. Surprisingly, Madara knew a little about Fuinjutsu. Right away, he made Naruto gravity seals that would make him faster, stronger, and bigger. It was a good plan. Madara could already see the results of the tour. Training he had Naruto do. There was a faint buildup of muscle where Naruto had planned to make muscles that would one day be as hard as wood. Madara got to know the hyperactive blonde over the course of a week, and he was interesting. Even after taking off the psychological mask, Naruto still had some of his old habits. He had a strange obsession with ramen, which he called the food of the gods, and he liked the color orange, even though Madara told him it was stupid and pointless, and the two of them argued for hours about whether orange was or wasn't a stoopy. But now Naruto was quiet and shy. He never complained, not to Madara or anyone else, and he smiled less. It also looked like Naruto was really angry at the people of Konoha, which was what the old Uchiha wanted. One great thing about Naruto now was that he was a perfectionist who wouldn't stop learning until he fully understood it, which made Madara think of himself. But the most amazing thing about his student was that he had so much untapped potential. It was like a wall of sticks was stopping a big flood. You didn't need the Sharingan to see it, it was there even without the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He was glad Zetsu brought him the boy. He now had a powerful weapon to carry on his legacy and will and finish what he had been planning for years. But one thing that bothered him was how bad the shinobi of today were. The elites couldn't catch a boy with blonde hair wearing an orange jumpsuit in the middle of the day. He was now thinking about whether to teach Naruto how to control elements. But before he could do that, he had to find out what kind of chakra Naruto had. If he was going to use the boy, he was going to make him as strong as possible because he wasn't able to do much right now. Many things about Naruto reminded Madara of his younger brother Izuna. They were both determined and quiet, and they were both focused and quick, thinking when they fought. But one thing about the blonde that surprised Madara was how sneaky Naruto was. The boy was sneaky and sneaky. Madara compared him to a fox, which was funny since he was a container for a huge orange fox with 9 tails. Maybe that's where he got his love of orange. But this talent would definitely come in handy in the future. Madara never knew what Naruto was planning because he was hiding behind a wall of words, but she had a feeling that Naruto was making plans. And speaking of foxes, it looked like Naruto was able to keep his amazing healing abilities. The future, Madara thought. The ancient Uchiha knew he didn't have much time left, even though he was still connected to the statue that was keeping him alive. The statue would stop giving him chakra in 3.5 years. But Madara couldn't help but think about the Kyuubi attack. The beast was sealed in the boy by the Yondaime Hokage, so why would the fox attack the village when it had the chance to escape and be free? By attacking the village, it had another chance to be sealed again, so someone had to be controlling it. It couldn't have been his enemy Hashirama, since he was dead and Zetsu told him he was sealed. Is it possible that it was someone else? Shut up! Yelled Madara sharply. In a few minutes, he could see the Venus flytrap open up and reveal his head. He asked the black half, yes. Why did Madara call for him? The last time he came to see Naruto, he gave him new clothes. Find out everything you can about the Kyuubi attack 13 years ago, and see what could have caused it and who was controlling it. Told Madara. The white half didn't understand why he should care about the Kyuubi attack, but the black half did. Before the white half spoke up, the black half said, I'll check it out. Oh, and here are the papers you wanted. Happy to see you, the white said as it gave Madara the papers and sank into the ground. Madara looked at the papers and said, yes, they're perfect. Hi, Naruto. Called Madara. Naruto stopped doing his 924th push-up and stared at his sensei with interest. Madara called him over and started to talk about the natures and affinities of chakra. Naruto is. Madara said, you see this in my hand. Naruto just looked at the papers. What was so important about them? They were just papers. He answered blankly, pieces of paper. This was another new thing about him after taking off the mask. Naruto had no feelings anymore, or he just never showed them. Madara thought it was the latter. Yeah and no. Madara said, these are chakra papers, but Naruto didn't seem to agree. These papers come from a tree that is filled with chakra and grows from it. These papers can tell you which of the basic elements you are most like. There is fire, water, wind, earth, and lightning. Each has its own pros and cons, as well as unique connections with the others. Naruto just nodded, knowing that these papers were pretty interesting. Now. I'm pretty sure that you have a connection to fire because my blood flows through you, Madara said. Wait, sensei, Naruto asked, getting the old man's attention. How can these papers tell what chakra nature you have? Before he gave Naruto one of the papers, Madara held on to another one and said, like this. He then channeled a small amount of chakra into the paper. Half of it caught fire and turned to ash, and the other half split in half. You see, Naruto, this paper is sensitive to chakra, and when you channel even the smallest amount, something will happen. Is my paper still somewhere out there? Naruto was thinking about what he had seen. The first half of your paper caught fire and turned to ash. The second half then split in half. That's right, which means I have 2 affinities. Fire and wind. Naruto just nodded. At least his teacher knew how to use fire jutsu. 5 things will happen to your paper to find out your affinity. If your affinity is fire like mine, the paper will catch fire. If your affinity is wind like mine, it will also cut in half. If your affinity is water, it will get wet. If your affinity is earth, it will crumble into dust. And if your affinity is lightning, it will wrinkle. But my main affinity is fire because it was the first to appear, Madara said. Naruto agreed and looked at his paper. He focused his chakra on it, and 3 things happened. First, the paper tore in half. Of the two halves that were left, one burned and turned into ash, and the other got wrinkled. Madara looked at the paper and said, "It looks like you have 3 affinities, Naruto. They are wind, fire, and lightning." This was a rare occurrence, and all 3 seemed to be natural. Cool. When are we going to start manipulating elements? Asked Naruto, who was tired of working out all the time. Madara told her, "You don't." What? Why am I doing all these hard exercises? Naruto asked himself. But I have the Sharingan, I can just guess when my enemies are going to attack. He didn't notice Madara's wrinkled hand coming at him and aiming for his head. A loud slap was heard as Madara's hand hit the back of Naruto's head. "Do not question your master," yelled Madara. The blonde was on the ground holding the back of his head. This was the first time Naruto had been rude to Madara, and he then said something stupid. "You old goat, I just did you." Madara got a few raised eyebrows. He didn't mind being called old, but an old goat was something he didn't like. He grabbed his Kusarigama and hit Naruto several times on the blunt end while Naruto kept saying, "Ow ow, I'm sorry, ow ow." Around this time, Zetsu retuned and saw something rather funny. Madara was hitting Naruto with the blunt side of his Kusarigama. The hits didn't really hurt Naruto, but he didn't want to be hit by an old man because it was hurting his reputation. Madara was rarely this active, so the two halves laughed at the scene. Madara disciplined the old Uchiha for a few minutes, and then he sat back down in his throne. Like chair. "Naruto, there is a limit to the Sharingan," Madara said, getting Naruto's attention. "Just because we can see all of our opponent's movements doesn't mean we can always stop them. You must train your body to be able to handle every threat, and the Sharingan will be your tool to further overwhelm them. Because even if you can follow their movements, your body won't be able to keep up with them," Madara explained. "That's why I gave you weight seals to make your attacks faster and stronger, and the other exercises to make you stronger and more durable." He should have told Naruto that at the start so he could understand. Naruto said in a low voice, "You could have just said at the beginning." Madara said, "I wanted you to figure it out." But Naruto was shocked when he heard that. "I want you to be able to figure these things out yourself, for if you are going to deploy the Eye of the Moon plan, then you will face powerful opponents like the Cages." Made clear Madara. "Go train again, or do you want me to hit you again?" Madara asked with a mean look in his eye. Naruto said, "Yes," and then went back to training. Zetsu was in front of Madara. The former leader of the Uchiha said, "That didn't take long." Zetsu just stood there and stared at the person who made it. "That's because of what I found was quite interesting." "And what did you find?" Madara asked, giving his subordinate a raised gray eyebrow. A note from the Yondaime Hokage to the Sandaime saying a person claiming to be Madara Uchiha took control of the Kyuubi and attacked the village. The village has become quite lazy if it can be infiltrated so easily. But back to the Kyuubi attacker, said Zetsu. "Impossible. I was sitting right here 13 years ago, and even then my body was not like it was. I couldn't be able to extract the Kyuubi and attack the Konohagakure with the Boyd I have now," cried Madara. "Some Uchiha is impersonating me, a copycat. We need to find this person and kill him. He could be a threat to me and my plans. He could ruin everything." Zetsu said, and I did just that. Zetsu always seemed to make him happier. Whoever had attacked the village has been manipulating the Akatsuki, through the guise of Madara Uchiha. Although I couldn't place a name, I have found out that he has ensnared Nagato, and has ordered him to collect the Biju to seal in the statue. When Zetsu spoke, Madara thought about how someone was getting Nagato to follow the exact same plan he had come up with. Either this person was a great copycat or he liked using a name that wasn't his own. But he was having an effect on the only other person who could call the old statue to life. Madara's piece. When the time is right, I'll have Naruto deal with the impersonator because I can't anymore. I would love to use the infinite Tsukuyomi, but this person is controlling my pawns, and that's one thing I hate. People who get involved in other people's business. The Eye of the Moon plan was my idea, and it will only be used by me or my heir, Naruto. This person who wants to be Madara must be eliminated. Madara lied darkly. It's been 2 months since Madara learned about the person who planned the Kyuubi attacks. He then told Naruto that he hoped to make him even more loyal to him, and it worked like a charm. Naruto became even more devoted and loyal to Madara, telling him that he would kill the fake Madara who had made his life a living hell because he was the source of all the hatred and loneliness Naruto had ever felt. Soon, he would be able to kill the real Madara with mutual hatred. But something was missing. While taking a break from working out, Naruto thought, the fake Madara was behind the attack on the village. He may have even had a hand in the Uchiha massacre. The village hates me because of him, but the Yondaime Hokage also played a part in that. But it's possible that the fake Madara killed my parents. The Naruto yelled, Zetsu. The plant man was the only one who could find out who his parents were. When Zetsu got up from the ground, you could only see his upper body. And Zetsu asked, yes Naruto? This was the first time the blonde asked the black man for something. I want you to run a DNA test at the Konoha hospital by infiltrating the village to find out who my parents were. Naruto spoke quickly. Zetsu was shocked because he hadn't seen that coming. Okay, but first, I will need some of your blood so I can compare it to anyone in the Leaf Village. According to Zetsu. The next hour, they started drawing blood. They watched as the small container filled up with red liquid, getting ready for the test at the hospital. The plant thing said, I'll be back in a few hours. Konoha was at night, and everything was quiet. Even in the hospital, not a single person was moving. Zetsu changed into a different form from the ground in the middle of the reception area. The strong sensor in Black Zetsu let him feel the signatures of everyone in the hospital. Other than the patients, he could feel nothing else in the hospital. The white version told the black version, did you know that Naruto hates hospitals? Yes, was all it said. Oh come on, I wanted to surprise you. They found their way to a certain wing of the hospital and found many things there, such as machines used to scan DNA and other things. The white person asked, oh, this is the place, right? They got out the hospital equipment they would need for the procedure and said, no shit. Zetsu didn't have any fingerprints, so it wouldn't leave any. Zetsu pressed keys on the computer keyboard and typed away. Then, it looked at the DNA results of Naruto and his parents to try to figure out who they were. The first picture that showed up was of a pretty woman with red hair, violet eyes, and a round face. White Zetsu said, oh, she's pretty. This is Naruto's mother. Her name is Kushina Uzumaki, birthday, July 10th, blood type, B, Jonin, status, deceased. Said Black Zetsu. White Zetsu expressed his happiness by saying, oh poor Naruto. Time for the father quick, quick. The second picture showed a handsome man with blonde hair that was spiked and blue eyes. White Zetsu was shocked to learn that Naruto's father was the Yondaime Hokage. The fake person could now understand why Yondaime would keep the Kyuubi inside his son. Why did they not see it before? Minato Namikaze, birthday, January 25th, blood type, B, Cage, status, deceased. Said Black Zetsu. Now this is a surprising turn of events. Who should we tell first, Naruto or Madara? Black Zetsu said, let's tell them both. White Zetsu said, oh, I can't wait to see how Naruto deals with this. The fly trap man turned into the ground, but not before getting rid of all the signs that it was there. White Zetsu said, wait. There's more. Zetsu looked at the new information that showed up on the computer screen. It looked for other relatives, but since Naruto's parents didn't have any siblings, it started with his grandparents and great grandparents right away. The black half asked, what do we have here? Over Konohagakure, the sun was shining brightly, birds were singing, rivers were running, leaves were rustling in the wind, and two crazy people in green jumpsuits were yelling about the power of youth. The sun was shining, which doesn't happen very often these days, but it wasn't getting warm. Sakura Haruno was going to the Yamanaka flower ship. The village looked like it was having the best time ever. She wasn't even happy that she was Tsunade's apprentice. She didn't know why. But Sakura was just normal. She hoped to find the answer to her question, but only in time. She could now see the flower shop and her best friend Ino Yamanaka looking at her nails for the 17th time that day behind the register. Sakura sighed as she looked at the picture. Some people never change. Ino did that all the time when they were younger. When she opened the door to the flower shop in Yamanaka, she heard the doorbell. Her best friend walked in and woke Ino up from her sleep. The platinum blonde said, hey Sakura. Hey, Ino. Sakura said back. To begin a conversation with the pinkette, Ino said, so I heard the news. The girl asked, what's the news? Not long ago, word got out that a certain genin with pink hair had become the apprentice of the Godem Hokage, Tsunade Senju. Ino said this in an informative way.
But those have to be rumors, since they never said anything about your massive forehead in it. What you say, Ino? Pig. Sakura screamed, her form lit up with flames of female rage. Ino clenched her teeth together and said, "You heard what I said, billboard." Brow. Their noses were only a few inches apart, and they looked like they were about to rip each other a new one. Until Kiba came in. With a happy smile on his face, Kiba said, "Hey Sakura, hey Ino." He had no idea what huge beasts were in front of him. Both of them yelled, "Get the fuck out, Kiba," at the same time as they threw flower bouquets at him. Which, despite the laws of physics, threw him out into the street, leaving a trail of blood on his lip and his eyes wide and white. He felt like a mountain had just hit him while a donkey kicked him in the gut. It was just not his day today. At the same time, Shikamaru turned the corner and saw Kiba lying on the ground, unconscious. He had a big bump on his head, a trail of blood at the corner of his lip, and what looked like broken ribs. Shikamaru looked to his right and saw Ino and Sakura arguing. They were yelling and calling each other names like they were crazy banshees. When Shikamaru stepped over Kiba and continued on his way, he said, "Troublesome." A person who thought that women were naturally sensitive must have been stupid at the time. I really don't want to make my mom mad because she's already too dangerous. Now let's go back to Sakura and Ino. You are so lucky, Sakura, I mean being apprenticed to the Tsunade of the Sannin. Do you know how many women would kill or maim for that position? Said Ino. Sakura said, "I know, but I'm not doing this for myself or anyone else." Ino was shocked by what Sakura said. Why is she being so rude? But why not for yourself or anyone else? Ino asked. She turned her head to look at the ground. People told Ino that it was very painful to talk about and not okay to do around her. Sakura said in a sad voice, "I'm doing it because I promised." Choosing to not talk about it. So far, Ino has asked a different question about her best friend. "Okay Sakura, what kind of flowers would you like today?" She asked Ino in a sincere voice, "May I have some white roses?" White roses are beautiful. They represent love, passion, memory, happiness, and passion. You made a good choice, Ino said as she tied a bunch of white roses together. Ino asked, "So who's the lucky guy that has your eye?" Because he knew this would make for good gossip. Sakura said in a low voice, "They're for Naruto." Ino let out a loud gasp because she knew she had just stepped on something she shouldn't have. After saying that, Sakura left the shop, and Ino watched her go. Sakura wasn't close to Naruto, but Ino felt the same way. She felt bad about all the times she made fun of him and punched him. As much as she wanted to take those words back and say she was sorry, she felt bad about being mean to him. Her mother told her to be mean to him, but her father told her not to, knowing something she didn't. The walk to the graveyard was quick and quiet. Sakura was in a trance because she was thinking about all the things she wanted to do with her blonde teammate, but they could never happen. There were other people at the cemetery when she got there, so she went over to Naruto's grave.
You could also see Hinata standing there.
In school, everyone could tell that Hinata liked Naruto, but Naruto was so stupid that he didn't notice. They went up to the tombstone and put the white roses in front of it. Hinata didn't seem to notice that she was there. When Hinata heard that Naruto had died, she didn't cry, yell, or point the finger at anyone. Instead, she shut down and stopped caring about anyone. For a few minutes, there was silence. Hinata may have left the cemetery to give Sakura some time to herself or just because she felt like it. She decided to say what was on her mind now that they were by themselves. She began by saying, "Hey Naruto. Kun." She smiled as she thought of the good times she had with the blonde. "I came to visit again and I brought flowers." Ino says hello. "I went to Tsunade Sama today and I asked if she could take me one as her student. And she said yes. I'm going to mainly be training in medical ninjutsu and possibly Tsunade Sama's incredible strength. I want you to know that. I'll come by once a week if I can, just to talk, you know?" She laughed briefly. "I really miss you. I miss your smile, that awful jumpsuit you always wore, your rivalry with Sasuke, and that loud voice of yours," she said with a smile as she named some of Naruto's traits. "Just so you know, I'm sorry how I treated you. I never really bothered to get to know you, though now I wish I had." She tried to find more words to say but was out.
I'll come by again next week, okay? Bye, Naruto. She said that. She slowly walked out of the cemetery, but not before giving the headstone a sadness-filled look. However, she didn't notice Kakashi standing nearby, watching everything. This made him feel even worse about what he had done. He thought that Naruto would never be with someone who loved him because of him. He also thought that he might have stopped a future life from growing. And if Kakashi had to pick a top regret, it would be Naruto's death. When he got to the gravestone, he just stood there and stared at it. He didn't say anything. He stood there still and silent for hours, not thinking about anything but the memories of his time with his sensei's son. He felt like he had spent enough time at the cemetery, so he left while saying a silent prayer for his student. But a loud voice woke him up from his thoughts. A voice yelled, "Kakashi, my eternal rival, today we must bathe in the springtime of your youth." He looked like he was going to do another one of Guy's challenges today. Guy was going to bother him until he did one of his challenges, and he felt down in the dumps. Once more. Tsunade was doing the worst thing for cages while sitting at her desk. Stuff to do. She opened her drawer and took out a bottle of sake that she had bought for herself. She knew Shizune would scold her for drinking at work, but it didn't bother her because she wanted alcohol and drinking was her favorite thing to do. Plus, she could deal with Shizune and her mean tongue whenever she wanted. The woman took a drink and leaned back in her chair, enjoying the position and the taste of the liquor in her mouth. Nothing could disturb her peace and quiet at this moment. Everyone's emotional wounds seemed to have healed after the death of her favorite blonde, but some were still open. As soon as she took another sip, one of her Anbu agents knelt down in front of her, making her spit out her drink. Hokage. Sama, there was a breach in security of the village less than 24 hours ago. Told the Anbu. She lost her temper and then quickly calmed down by yelling, "What?" She asked, "How did this happen?" Less than half an hour ago, a Chunin stationed at the hospital searched over the video recordings last night and he found the intruder on the video strolling through the hospital. This person was wearing a black cloak, emblazoned with red clouds. The Anbu agent continued. The Akatsuki. She wondered what they would want with the hospital. Bird, was there anything else that the camera feeds picked up? The Anbu agent, whose name had been changed to Bird, said. After the Chunin reported the disturbance to the Anbu, a team was sent over to study what was found, but what we found should only be for your eyes only, Hokage. Sama. Said the Bird. Tsunade thought about what she had to do. Get me Shizune, Shikaku, Kakashi and Jiraiya, knowing the pervert he could be at the hot springs. Tsunade was told. The Bird yelled, "At once." And then vanished in a cloud of leaves. Tsunade stood up from her desk and began walking to the hospital. When she got there, a group of Anbu members were already there to greet her. For her safety, they bowed and took her to the room where all the hospital tapes were kept. Shizune and Taunton, her master's pet pig, were already waiting for her when she walked into the room. Shikaku Nara gave her a nod. She thought Kakashi would be late, but Jiraiya wasn't here until the door opened behind her and Jiraiya walked in with a serious look on his face. Okay, Haim, what was so important that it had to get in the way of my research? Jiraiya, who was annoyed by the situation, asked. Tsunade put a tick mark on her forehead when she heard the sexy words. He was still focused on writing that weird garbage after Naruto died. The village had been infiltrated during the night. We're soon going to look at the footage, but I want Kakashi here for this. Tsunade said this as her anger over the Toad Sennin started to fade. Shizune, Shikaku, and Jiraiya were shocked and worried. Konohagakure was one of the hardest places to sneak into. It was just as hard to get in as a Megakure in their security. The sensory barrier around Konoha was so strong that you had to be very good at sneaking past it. But it was almost impossible to walk in with a black cloak that had red clouds on it without drawing attention to yourself. That was different when Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki came into the village to look for Naruto. Itachi used to be captain of the Konoha Anbu, so he knew how to get around the village's defenses. Kisame, on the other hand, had killed daimyos in other countries and gotten away, so he was at least very good at sneaking around. After an hour, Kakashi still hadn't shown up. Tsunade got a checkmark for being late. After another hour, Tsunade got another checkmark for Kakashi being 2 hours late. The third hour had passed, and Tsunade had 3 tick marks on her face. It was throbbing badly, and she was really mad. When the door opened, Kakashi was reading that stupid orange shit. He said, "Yo," and smiled at the other 3 people in the room, but they didn't respond with a hello. Instead, Tsunade punched him in the face. Luckily it wasn't chakra infused. Even though Kakashi got up and cleaned up, he was still shocked when Tsunade attacked him out of the blue. Since things had been tense between the 2 Sannin and Kakashi, Jiraiya tried to calm things down by saying, "Now that we're all here, let's get Kakashi up to speed." He then cleared his throat and spoke to Kakashi because it would be better if he did it instead of Tsunade. Over the night, the Leaf Village was infiltrated by an unknown assailant. Who they are and how they got in still remains a mystery as they penetrated through the sensory barrier with relative ease. However, they weren't really careful when they arrived here at the hospital where we caught them on the building's video surveillance, but what we do know is that the assailant was wearing a black cloak with red clouds. For now, they had Kakashi's full attention. If it had anything to do with the Akatsuki, it wasn't good. Shizune pressed a few keys on the keyboard to turn on the monitor and choose the tape that had been recorded. The reception area was the first thing they saw when the picture came to life. Then something that looked like a Venus flytrap began to change shape from the ground up until it was a full body. The black cloak and red clouds were as clear as day. Shizune and Taunton both groaned and said, "The Chunin was right. It is the Akatsuki." Taunton agreed with Shizune when he said, "But what could the Akatsuki want with this hospital? It's not special in any way. But they already accessed the village when they were looking for Naruto, but those were Itachi and that other ninja Kisame. Why would another Akatsuki agent come here again, and there's something not right here," said Shikaku. All eyes were on him, even the hogs. "What Jiraiya Sama was able to find out about the Akatsuki says that they work in pairs, so where is his partner?" Shikaku asked, pointing to Zetsu on the screen. "This is starting to get more confusing by the second. None of this information gives us something to go on." "But Shizune's right, why the hospital?" Tsunade said this as she rubbed her head. This made everyone pay attention. Maybe it's not the hospital that interests them. Before he could speak again, a new voice came in. Maybe it has nothing to do with the hospital at all, or whatever they need to do is within the building. Soon after, everyone in the room turned their attention to the door. Frowns began to appear. An old man with black, spiky hair stood in front of the doorway. He was mostly covered in bandages, especially around his right eye and right arm, which was leaning on a cane. Jiraiya growled, "Danzo." The darkness of the shinobi stood in front of everyone, and no one could read his expressionless face. He was with the Hokage's 2 other advisors. "They are Homura Mitokado and Kaharu Udatain." Shikaku asked, "What are you doing here?" His body was tense, but it was always tense when he was near Danzo. "We received a message that the village had been infiltrated by an agent of the Akatsuki," Homura told us. Kuharu asked, "Is this true, Tsunade?" "Yes," Tsunade answered, her discomfort and anger radiating from her. And Danzo said, "Then you have also made yet another mistake in judgment about the safety of Konoha." The scowls got even bigger. "First, the Sharingan abandons the village, and not a day after we lose our weapon, the Jinchuriki and now a wanted group of missing ninja are now able to waltz freely from within and out our village." "Those things were not her fault," Shikaku said in defense. "It was the Uchiha's own choice to leave the village, and it was his choice to kill Naruto, and we have no idea about the capabilities of the rest of the Akatsuki." Darno didn't seem scared, but he knew he couldn't win this fight right now. 7 people in the room turned their attention back to the screen. The plant-like thing opened up to show a man who was half black and half white, with green hair on one side. "Weird," Homura said. "At the very least, this person looked strange." But being half-colored wasn't the strangest thing about Homura. The part that looked like a flytrap was. The black and white man was followed through the hospital to a certain wing. When he got there, Shizune and Tsunade knew right away that it was the room where all the blood tests and other things that involve blood are done. The plant thing then took out a small vial of red liquid and scanned what was inside it into the computer screen. What next showed up shocked everyone. It was a picture of Kushina Uzumaki, also known as the Red Hot Habanero. Not being able to hear what the person said was because the video doesn't record sound. They stopped the monitor once more and chose to talk. "What makes the Akatsuki want Kushina? Is she dead?" asked Jiraiya. "Maybe it had to be the fact that she was the former Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi," replied Shikaku. Later, Shikaku found out about this from Jonin, the head of the village. Tsunade also knew because she was the Hokage, and she also told Jiraiya and Shizune. Tsunade bit her finger and said, "No, it's something else." But what? As they played the tape some more, they saw something else that shocked them. The screen showed a picture of Minato Namikaze. "Okay, that's it, I give up. What do the Akatsuki want with dead people?" Someone yelled at Tsunade, "The puzzle pieces don't fit together. This makes no sense." Tsunade looked at a picture of her predecessor, who had been Jiraiya's student. It was crazy that no one knew Naruto was Minato's son. I mean, the kid looked just like the man, but younger. That's all, Naruto. "Jiraiya, Kakashi, do you think this has some connection to Naruto?" said Tsunade. "No, nothing comes to mind. Naruto is dead. I don't see why the Akatsuki are interested with him now since the Kyuubi's chakra has dispersed." Kakashi replied. "Same here, Haim, but I don't see why the Akatsuki would care about Naruto's parentage. They wouldn't care if he was Kami's kid. This doesn't make any sense." He said this while running his hand through his hair. After seeing the rest of the video, things were the same as before. In fact, watching the video made things even more unclear. There were questions that needed to be answered, but only the Akatsuki knew the answers. Everyone in the room left, except for Jiraiya, who kept staring at the monitor in front of him. He didn't understand why Minato and Kushina were there or what they had to do with anything the Akatsuki planned. The Great Toad Sage was thinking about whether to tell Jiraiya that Naruto is still alive at Myobokuzen. His mind had been going back and forth for hours over whether to tell him or not. But in his prophecy, he said that the world would either have a great savior or a great destroyer. But it wasn't up to him to decide which would happen. He finally chose to keep the information from Jiraiya until it was really needed. He was just observing, all that is, watching as nature works its magic. He would, however, tell Jiraiya the new information he had learned. Something that would decide the next steps for the world. A Toad Sage of Myokuzen called out, "Hey you old geezer, wake up. M.A. You shouldn't use such an insulting title for the Honorable Sage," yelled at Fukasaku, who was another sage of the Maze Mountain. "Shut up, you old snot. Dinner is cold because we've been sitting here for hours. Being a housewife isn't easy, you know," he yelled. "Shima. Dusty bag, stop calling me an old fart." Fukasaku shot back, "And who cares about dinner? I'm interested. The reason being I'm the one cooking." The two old toads got into a fight, which caught the attention of the Honorable Sage. The elder said, now, spouses shouldn't fight." The elder toad was being watched by the two small toads who were dying. "Please summon Jiraiya here as soon as you can, there is something I must tell him." The other two toads were shocked that the old one wanted to talk to Jiraiya again. Fukasaku then used the right hand signs to call someone backwards. Fukasaku yelled, "Gyaku Kachiyose no Jutsu," and slammed his hand on the ground, making a bunch of symbols appear on it. When smoke came out, it showed Jiraiya's shape. The Sannin was shocked. He had not expected to be back at Myobokuzen. Iraya asked, "Fukasaku Sama? Jiraiya Chan, the Great Lord Elder, wishes to speak with you." Fukasaku said that. He turned around and looked at the Great Elder. Shima yelled, "Will you hurry up? I want to have dinner." At this point, everyone knew how annoyed she was. "Ah, now that we are here. Who are you again?" the elder said. This seemed to make everyone feel down. Shiam yelled, "Jiraiya. Jiraiya." She was eager to finish this and start making dinner. "Yes, Jiraiya." The wise man said, "I've called you here because I had another vision. Another prophecy." I asked Jiraiya, "What did you see?" "Anything else that was seen could be good or bad. I saw a huge, unpleasant animal in my dream." The wise man said, "It made countries, sucked up oceans, split the land, carried mountains, and with its breath, caused hurricanes. Just being there will scare everyone, but this thing is part of nature, and nature is part of it." He was scared because this beast didn't sound very nice to him. "This beast will come to our world soon, and with it probably our destruction. It is the harbinger of the end days. When you hear its howl you will know that it has come," said the wise man. This made everyone in the room sad, which was not a good way to begin a prophecy. "But there was someone else in my dream," the wise old man said. "Who?" Jiraiya asked very carefully. He had to find this person or the world might end. I don't know, this being was obscured to me, the wise man replied. But this person was forged from darkness and fire, bears the scars of the winds of war and the tides of sorrow hammer against him, he carries the hatred of 1,000 men and the love of none. He holds up the pillars of the earth and his power sparks hope and fear in the world. He will rise and subjugate the beast. Jiraiya felt better when he heard who the sage said they were. But was the only word that seemed to wake Jiraiya up. The sage said, when he does enslave the beast, he will either bring salvation or despair, depending on which path he takes. The beast opened its eyes and looked at Jiraiya. To unearth this person you must stare into the eyes of the abyss and shadows. And it will find you. Is that it? Jiraiya asked. The wise man said, yes, that's it. But Jiraiya, this person may be an even greater threat than the beast. After hearing those words, Jiraiya was sent back to where he was called. He found himself in the office of the Hokage. Tsunade was startled when he suddenly came back. Tsunade yelled, Jiraiya, what happened? Where did you go? The bright light made Jiraiya shy away. After that, he told her everything the wise man had told him about the big beast and the fire person. A great beast that swallows oceans and a man that bears the scars of the winds of war. Tsunade didn't understand. Jiraiya, do you think this animal is the Kyuubi? Tsunade asked. No, I don't think so, Haim. I believe that this beast is even a greater threat than the Kyuubi, replied Jiraiya. And what of this mysterious person? The one with eyes like the abyss? Tsunade asked. I don't know, Haim, this is all that I was given, I'm just as perplexed as you are, Jiraiya said. Tsunade's attention was caught when Jiraiya said, but the elder warned me about something. His voice was stern as he said that this person might be even more dangerous than the beast.